What happens when a former president walks into what should be a routine interview, only to be met with questions sharper than he ever expected? What happens when the cameras are rolling, the nation is watching, and the most trusted man in television news refuses to back down? Tonight we take you inside the extraordinary moment when Donald Trump was escorted off the NBC news set after a confrontation with Lester Holt that no one saw coming. This is a story of power, pride, and the collision of journalism and politics in the most explosive way possible. The NBC studios in Rockefeller Center were humming with their usual pre-show energy. Makeup artists moved quickly, camera operators adjusted their frames, and producers scurried through last-minute details. To the staff, this was supposed to be routine, a standard political interview, the kind Holt had conducted for decades. Behind the desk, Lester Holt reviewed his notes with calm precision, unaware that the conversation ahead would become one of the most talked-about interviews in television history. Trump arrived with his entourage, shaking hands, trading smiles, carrying the same air of confidence he always projected before stepping in front of the cameras. He had done this 1,000 times. To him, this was just another chance to speak directly to the American people. As he settled into the chair opposite Holt, adjusting his tie, checking his reflection on the monitor, there was no sign that this interview would be different from the hundreds before it. But Holt was ready. Known for his steady demeanor and relentless preparation, he had covered wars, elections, debates, and scandals. His reputation rested on asking tough questions without ever losing composure. The red light blinked on. The cameras rolled. The interview began smoothly. Softball questions, easy answers, a conversational flow designed to ease the audience into weightier topics. For a few minutes, everything was textbook. Trump gestured animatedly. Holt nodded thoughtfully. And then, something shifted. Maybe it was the way Holt leaned forward. Maybe it was the weight in his voice when he spoke next. Whatever it was, Trump felt it instantly. The interview was about to turn. "Let me ask you something the viewers really want answered," Holt said, his tone firmer now. Trump's posture stiffened. His eyes narrowed. "There have been numerous allegations and investigations surrounding your business practices. The American people deserve clarity. Can you address the claims of financial irregularities that multiple sources have raised?" The words hung in the air like a challenge. Trump's face hardened. The casual tone evaporated. He shifted in his chair, jaw tight, voice edged with warning. "That's a very unfair question, Lester. You're repeating fake news that's been debunked again and again. I thought this was going to be a fair interview. Not another hit job from the mainstream media." The studio tightened with silence. Camera operators exchanged wary glances. Producers knew they were watching the script unravel. But Holt didn't flinch. His voice was steady, almost surgical. "These aren't my allegations. They're documented concerns raised by regulators and investigated by law enforcement. I'm asking for your response to information already in the public record." His tone was professional, but firm. The stance of a journalist unwilling to be bullied off course. Trump's expression reddened, his frustration spilling into anger. "You're being dishonest, Lester. Very dishonest. These are witch hunts, politically motivated attacks. And you know it. You're supposed to be a journalist, not a prosecutor." The standoff had begun. "Why don't you ask me about the good things I've accomplished instead of repeating these lies?" Trump snapped, his voice rising as his hands cut aggressively through the air. The atmosphere inside the studio shifted sharply. What began as a tense exchange was now unraveling into open confrontation. In the control room, producers traded panicked looks, whispering urgently about whether to cut to commercial. Nobody had planned for this. Holt, to his credit, stayed steady. "I've covered your accomplishments extensively in past broadcasts," he said evenly. But responsible journalism means asking about concerns as well as successes. That's what the public expects, and that's what I'm doing today. The public expects fairness, Trump shot back, his voice laced with fury. They don't expect ambush journalism designed to make me look bad. This is exactly why people don't trust the media. You're biased, you're unfair, you're dishonest about everything I do. The words landed like a hammer. For the first time, Holt's expression flickered. Just a faint tightening around the eyes, but enough for viewers to see Trump had touched a nerve. Sir, I have to respectfully disagree with that characterization, Holt replied, his voice still controlled but edged with steel. My reporting has been recognized for its fairness and accuracy across the industry. I'm not here to ambush you. I'm here to ask the questions that need to be asked. Trump leaned forward, jabbing an accusatory finger across the table. Your reporting? Let me tell you about your reporting, Lester. From day one, you and your network have been part of this coordinated attack against me. Never once have you given me a fair shake. Every story, every question, every angle, it's all negative. That's not journalism. That's propaganda. The studio fell silent. Even the background hum of equipment seemed louder in the pause that followed. Holt's jaw tightened. The veteran anchor, known for his composure under pressure, was visibly tested in real time, live before millions. I reject that completely, Holt said, his tone harder now. I've reported on your policies critically when necessary, and positively when warranted. I've always provided your representatives the opportunity to respond. That is professional journalism, whether you like the questions or not. Trump's face flushed deep red, his composure gone. He slapped a hand on the arm of his chair and rose abruptly, startling the crew. Professional journalism? You call this professional? He shouted, his voice echoing across the set. You invite me here under false pretenses, then ambush me with lies and fake stories. This is garbage, and I don't have to sit here and take it. This interview is over. Gasps rippled across the studio. Camera operators instinctively tracked his movement as he ripped the microphone from his lapel. The set, once carefully orchestrated, had erupted into chaos. Holt stayed seated, his eyes fixed on the departing figure. His voice cut through the noise, calm but resolute. Sir, you agreed to this interview. These are legitimate questions that voters deserve to hear answered. Walking away doesn't make the questions disappear. It only raises more doubts about transparency and accountability. Trump didn't turn back. Surrounded by aides, he stormed toward the exit, leaving the cameras rolling on an empty chair. And just like that, a routine interview had transformed into one of the most explosive moments in broadcast news history. Trump's face was now crimson, his words spitting out like sparks. Transparency? Accountability? Let me tell you about accountability, Lester. How about you be accountable for the lies you've spread about me? How about your network finally admit to the biased, dishonest coverage you've been pumping out for years? You want accountability? Start with yourself. He stepped forward, closing the space between them, his movements sharp and confrontational. Crew members exchanged alarmed glances, frozen between instinct and protocol. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a rupture. I stand by every story we've reported, Holt said, rising from his chair, locking eyes with Trump across the desk. His voice was steady, but his posture carried the unmistakable weight of defiance. Our newsroom has the highest standards in the industry. If you have evidence of inaccuracy, present it. But throwing accusations doesn't change the facts. Evidence? Trump barked, nearly shouting. The evidence is your coverage. Anyone who watches your network can see the bias. Anyone who reads your stories can see the agenda. You've been trying to destroy me from day one, and now you want to hide behind the word journalism? That's a joke. Holt's face flushed, his legendary composure cracking. My integrity and the integrity of this newsroom are not up for debate. We report facts. We don't bend to what makes politicians comfortable. That's the job, and we do it whether you like it or not. Trump gave a bitter laugh, shaking his head. Your job is supposed to be informing the American people, not pushing a political agenda. Your job is supposed to be balanced reporting, not hit pieces meant to influence elections. You've forgotten what journalism even means. Now both men were standing, squared off across the desk like rivals in a courtroom, instead of anchor and guest. The rules of broadcast decorum had collapsed into raw hostility. I haven't forgotten a damn thing about journalism, Holt shot back, his voice carrying an intensity that startled even the crew. I've done this for decades. I've covered presidents, dictators, and world leaders. And I've never had anyone question my integrity the way you're doing now. Maybe the problem isn't the questions. Maybe the problem is you don't want to answer them. Trump's eyes blazed, his anger reaching a breaking point. The problem is, you've already written the story in your head. You're not interviewing me. You're staging a performance. That's not journalism, that's activism. And I'm done with it. With those words, he turned toward the exit. But Holt's voice rang out firm and unyielding. You can't just walk away from accountability. The American people deserve answers. Walking away isn't leadership. It's cowardice. The word detonated like a bomb. Trump froze mid-step. Slowly, he pivoted, his expression carved into cold rage. What did you just call me? His voice was quiet now, but dangerously so. The studio air thickened. Every breath on set held in suspense. Holt didn't blink. I called it what it is. Walking away from tough questions is cowardice. You came here for an interview. That means facing scrutiny. That's democracy. Trump advanced again, deliberate, heavy steps that echoed through the hushed studio. You have no idea what courage looks like, Lester. No idea at all. I've faced challenges you couldn't imagine while you sit behind a desk reading other people's words. Don't you dare lecture me about courage. Then prove it, Holt countered, his voice steady as stone. Sit down. Answer the questions. Show the American people you're not afraid of the truth. Trump sneered, jabbing a finger toward him. I'm not afraid of anything. What I won't do is sit here and be ambushed by a biased reporter who's already decided to twist everything I say. This is a setup, and everyone watching knows it. The only setup here, Holt shot back, is the set of questions I prepared from documented reports and public records. If you find them threatening, maybe it's not the questions, it's your answers. Trump's face was nearly purple with rage now. My answers? Let me tell you about my answers. I built a business empire. I served as President of the United States. I accomplished more in 4 years than most politicians do in a lifetime. And what have you done, Lester? You sit there and read a teleprompter. I've informed the public about wars, disasters, elections, and corruption for 3 decades. Holt snapped, his voice finally breaking free of its restraint. I've stood on the front lines of history, so the American people could know the truth. And right now, the truth is standing right in front of me. Trying to walk away from accountability, the clash had reached its boiling point. Both men stood inches apart, their fury now fully exposed under the unforgiving studio lights. That's what journalists do in a free society, whether those powerful people like it or not. Trump's face contorted with rage, his gestures sharp and erratic, as his voice thundered through the studio. Free society? You call this free? You call it free when the media gangs up on candidates they don't like? You call it free when reporters pretend to be neutral while acting like political activists? This isn't journalism. It's warfare. Holt's reply cut through the chaos like a blade. If asking tough questions feels like warfare, then maybe you're not cut out for public scrutiny. Maybe you should stick to safe interviews where no one dares challenge you. The insult landed. Trump's eyes narrowed, his movements tightening as he stepped closer to Holt's desk. You think you're so clever, Lester? You think you're above everyone else? But you're nothing. Nobody elected you. Nobody gave you the authority to judge what's right and wrong. You're just a media hack with delusions of grandeur. And you're just another politician who can't handle being held accountable. Holt shot back, his restraint fully broken. You don't want questions. You don't want scrutiny. You want applause and adoration. But that's not how America works. Trump slammed his palm on the desk, the crack echoing through the studio like a gunshot. Don't you dare lecture me on America. I've done more for this country than you ever will. I've built, I've led, I've fought, while you sit here reading words written by other people. You've certainly done something, Holt retorted coldly. The question is whether it was legal, ethical, or in the best interest of the country. That's what the public deserves to know. Trump's voice rose again, spitting fury. You don't want to know anything. You've already decided the verdict. You, your network, the whole corrupt media. You came here not for an interview, but for an execution. The only thing being executed here is your credibility, Holt said with devastating calm. Every time you dodge a question, every time you attack the messenger instead of the facts, you reveal yourself. And the American people are watching. That line seemed to break something in Trump. His words dissolved into a torrent of anger. Fake news, rigged media, witch hunt, tumbling incoherently from his mouth as the crew stood paralyzed. Producers exchanged frantic looks. Seconds later, NBC security appeared at the studio door, summoned by staff who feared the situation had gone too far. Trump saw them, his face twisting with defiance. You want me gone? Fine, he barked. But don't think this is over, Lester. Don't think you can ambush me and get away with it. Everyone will know what really happened here today. Everyone already does, Holt replied, his voice steady once more. They saw it unfold live. They saw who asked legitimate questions and who chose a public meltdown instead. As security guided Trump toward the exit, he shouted over his shoulder, his words ragged but loud. This is what the corrupt media does. This is why nobody trusts you anymore. Remember this, America. And then he was gone. The studio fell into stunned silence, leaving behind a rattled crew and a nation of viewers who had just witnessed something unprecedented in broadcast history. So, what do you think about this explosive confrontation between journalism and politics? Was Lester Holt right to press forward with tough questions? Or did he cross a line? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts.